Do you ever find yourself hitting play on something the moment it gets quiet? Like me when I'm trying to go to sleep, for example. Like Spotify, YouTube, that third true crime podcast you weren't even really into. And let's be honest, it's not always about entertainment, right? Sometimes we're just filling the space. Yeah. Because what's more uncomfortable in silence? The thoughts that show up in it. Sawadee Cup and welcome to another episode here for the Funky Pod, Mindful Media and Communication. And if that cold open just hit you in the fields, you're not alone. I wasn't kidding when I said I do this basically every night right now. I put on the Big Bang Theory in the background because I watch it 100,000 times, so I don't have to listen to it. And I don't know, maybe it's the voices that I'm used to or something, just drowns out all those thoughts. So why is that the case, right? Well, it's because silence isn't empty. Silence is loaded. So the hard truth here is that most of us don't actually hate silence. We hate the things that silence reveals. So when the background noise drops, the inner monologue gets louder. And if we are not used to sit with it, it feels kind of unbearable. And again, you're not the only one who's feeling this, but there's a name for this. It's called detox panic. The brain's kind of low-key freak out when it loses stimulation. And why is it the case, right? So, well, psychologically, we've been conditioned to pair quiet with boredom or awkwardness or loneliness. So we avoid it. But in doing so, we don't just dodge discomfort, we also dodge self-reflection. We fill every possible gap with, I don't know, for me it's the Big Bang Theory, or ambient sound, or anything that kind of at least drowns out the silence. And it's, again, not to entertain, but to distract, to delay, or to numb. Now, that leads to the question, why can we get used to silence? Why can't we sit with it? And what's behind that? And to answer this, I have to throw two terms at you and we talk about it. So one is called ambient intimacy. And then the other one is called hyperpersonal. And I just added the trap, hyperpersonal trap. So ambient intimacy was coined quite a while ago by Clive Thompson. And it's described the way social media and background media keep us, oh God, air quotes incoming, keep us close to people, even when we are not talking to them, okay? So that podcast host you've never met but feels like a friend, hi Joe Rogan, that YouTuber whose life updates you follow religiously, right? Hey, yes, theory. The endless tree of story time TikToks. Hey, I don't do TikTok, so I don't have an example. But you know what I mean, right? So it's not just parasocial relationships, and we talked about this before, right? Parasocial connections. It's ambient intimacy, ongoing passive exposure that mimics closeness without risk. And add to that now the hyperpersonal communication theory. We talked about this before on the podcast. Hyperpersonal communication theory, right? We disclose faster and deeper in mediated environments that feel like, yeah, here I could share something because it feels safer, it feels curated, it feels controlled. But this also means we are not practicing the skills needed for real-time face-to-face silence or nuance or conflict. Yeah, we are always scripting, we are always performing. So when that's not the case, when we are alone, when we are unscripted, then it becomes jarring. And that's when we suffer. So here's another wild thought, okay? I am suggesting that boredom disappeared and that it costs us a lot. Let me explain. Most creative breakthroughs, they do not happen when we are hyperstimulated. They happen in the gaps in between, in the nothing. Right? People chilling under apple trees and things like that. There's actually a research that I shared in one of my classes by a neuroscientist. I did not write down. I think his name is Dr. Schooler, but I didn't. I should have wrote it down. I'll edit if I don't forget it. I'll add it to the podcast notes. This research shows that mind wandering, right, activates the brain's like default mode network. Yeah, that's how you say it. The system tied to introspection, imagination, and future planning. That's the system that gets like activated when your mind just wanders and doesn't do anything actively, and you just, what people might call lost in your mind, and you're just like thinking and not doing anything in particular. That actually is important for our brain to think. So now if you're always listening, watching, scrolling, we never let the brain enter this mode. Yeah, we kind of like trade things. We trade insight, into our mind for input. We kind of like trade reflection for reaction. So, if you want it in an equation, who wants that, right? But if there's no silence, there's no stillness, there's no synthesis. That means our ideas that we have, they're not marinating. They're being microwaved, if you will, because you're always like getting something on your brain. That's why, and I know you don't want to hear it, but that's also why you shouldn't TikTok before you go to sleep. And now, to add one more layer to the whole thing, this isn't only you, and this isn't necessarily just your fault that you're doing that. Because silence is actually collectively demonized. It's a cultural thing. It's a cultural fear of stillness, if you will. Why is it the case? Well, in hyper-capitalist, like where we are, like always on media cultures, productivity is a currency, right? Silence looks like you're lazy. Stillness reads like stagnation. Even mindfulness apps have gamified doing nothing, right? Like, hey, congratulations, you meditated for 7 minutes. Now share your streak. Yeah, we even made resting performative. And let's not forget that cultural communication styles are also part of that. High context versus low context cultures handle silence very different. Yeah, in some, Japan, Finland, pauses are respectful. In others, like the US, Germany, they're awkward at best and suspicious at worst. Like, why are you so silent? What's that? What are you thinking? What are you planning? So we learn to fill every gap, just in case someone mistakes our stillness for ignorance, for example. Now, eventually, we're hopefully asking, okay, what can we do? Is there a way to reclaim silence without feeling lazy, useless? Can we fix it? or at least, well, tolerate it without feeling, useless, lazy. And I think we can. And research suggests that there are different steps to take. I found a few. I don't want to overshare, of course, but like one is micro silence experiment. So if you eat, the next time you eat something, just leave your phone in another room. You don't jump to fill the void. We just eat. Also hard for me to do, but for example, because I always watch something on YouTube while I eat. Or research continues saying, sit in awkwardness deliberately. The next time when a conversation like lulls, don't save it, and let the pause breathe, and then see what surfaces. I'm smiling if you're watching this on video because I'm very awkward in social situations, so I don't know if I can do that, but I shall try that too. Same research suggests to shift the frame from absence to presence. What it means by that is silence isn't the absence of sound, it's the presence of self. That now might sound rather religious or something like that, but if you think about it, it's actually kind of cool. There's no noise distracting me from being myself. It's kind of cool, actually. So at least to me, that speaks to me. And the last thing I wrote down from that research that I read, it says detox doesn't have to mean denial. So it's okay to consume, but mindful. Ask, is this nourishing or is it numbing? Does it make sense that I listen to this right now or watch it, or is it just so that I drown out silence? Biggest takeaway from talking or thinking and preparing this topic for me is that we shouldn't fear the void. Because the thing is that silence, even if it's awkward or weird at times, it won't hurt you, right? Silence doesn't hurt you. But the absence of silence actually might. Overstimulation, no time for reflection, no time to let your thoughts marinate, and so on. If you never unplug, you never reboot. If you always consume, you will never confront. And to make sure that this really sounds like a TEDx talk, let me finish by saying, maybe this week, instead of like hitting play by default, and I will try that too, at least tonight when I go to bed, hit pause on purpose, not forever, just for long enough to maybe hear yourself think. And if it's too much, then you hit play again. I hope you understand when I'm joking and when I'm not, right? But the thing is, in a world of streaming everything, being silent sometimes is just the most crazy, radical thing that we can do, right? And sometimes, and at least, again, bringing it back to the beginning, also to me on a personal level, it's hard to live with silence. But if we manage to find a way to do it, it's good for us. It's good for our thoughts. And this week, maybe you and we all should try that a little bit more. Let me know how this goes. Totally counterproductive. If you've been silent this week, shout out in the comments. Let me know how this goes for you. Let me know your thoughts. Comments would be appreciated on all the platforms where you're watching or listening to this. Like, share, subscribe. That would be fantastic if you haven't done so already. And shout out to everybody listening to the very end, through all my bad jokes and puns. I appreciate you. And we talk next week. That is help.